So I guess we'll go ahead and get started. It looks like it's kind of leveled off. So we'll just go ahead. There's really no breaking or pressing news right now. We just decided to go ahead and get back in the swing of calls and maybe questions that have come up. Most of you, probably since our last call, have officially started school. I know some of you had, but we'll go ahead and go with the PowerPoint. Again, questions in the chat. Let's get through the PowerPoint, and then if your question's still not answered, we'll do our best to get it answered in the chat. So we do want everybody's questions answered, and there's occasional times that we can't answer it and we get back with you. So okay, so Dana, if you want to go ahead and advance. Just a reminder that all meals, now that everybody has started school, will be claimed under SSO. We have not been made aware at this point that anyone's going to operate regular NSLP and SBP. If you are, again, please reach out to our office. We need to discuss that with you so we make sure that we've got you set up the way you need to be set up in CARS. But everyone else is operating under SSO, claiming breakfast and lunch, getting reimbursed at the summer feeding rate, which is the higher rate. Keep in mind, if you're having to go virtual for any reason, really the reason would be because you maybe had a COVID outbreak and a lot of districts are still going virtual for like 2 weeks at a time. Please be sure and check your emails because that's how we're communicating. We are diligently working on applications, the school applications. And so we do need to be able to get a hold of you if corrections need to be made to that. So that process is we're still working through that process. Keep in mind that if you're operating SSO, you're going to claim by site. That was something we had told you last time. Again, if you're not operating SSO, please let us know. Weekend meals are not allowed on SSO, nor are holidays. And don't forget to do your monitoring for the program. You still need to do your SSO monitoring. And then if you're multi-sited, you need to do that on site. I'm sorry, but I'm going to sneeze. So hold on just a second.
I guess we'll just say bless you, Jennifer, and let her get her sneezing, and then she'll be back.
Okay, sorry, okay, sorry, that's never happened since I've been doing these calls, but that just came out of nowhere, so sorry about that. Keep in mind your monitoring. You've got to do your SSO monitoring, and you've also got to do, if you're multi-sited, you've got to do that monitoring under NSLP and SBP, and that's due by February 1st of each year. You'll monitor each of your lunch sites, and you have to do half of your breakfast sites. And that monitoring form is in the Child Nutrition Manual in the cafeteria manager section. So don't forget to do that stuff. Also, as a reminder, for your SSO claim, if you can see on the screen, you're going to select each site that you're going to enter a claim for, and you've got to go down to that drop-down box. Dana, you kind of want to hover over that box so they can see it. There's a drop-down box, and it'll drop down. You can pick from NSLP, FFVP, or SSO. You need to select the SSO claim. That's what you need to select. And then my screen is really tiny. I'm going to try and blow it up. Oh, there's my face. I don't even think with my glasses. Again, Zoom has changed some things. I don't want to get too close. The view claim summary for SSO is not the same as what it is for NSLP. The NSLP view claim summary button does not work for SSO. That's not what it's meant for. So that's what but you have to file the SSO claim. Meals under SSO is what I'm trying to say. The next one, Dana, I believe is the at-risk. At-risk, if you're wanting to apply for at-risk, it is a different program than SSO. It's under our Child and Adult Care Food Program, which the acronym is CACFP. So you do have to apply for that if you're wanting to do supper or the third meal, as a lot of schools call it. You can also do snack on the at-risk. you're allowed a snack and the supper meal, so a meal and a snack. If you want to do the after school snack program, which is a SSP, you can do that through the NSLP application. Is where you have to do that. So you'd actually file the claim under SSO for breakfast and lunch. And then if you're doing after school snack, ASSP, you would file that under the NSLP claim, just after school snack. Okay. Adult and staff meals. This always tends to be an issue this time of year, and this year's no different. It tends to feel like maybe it's more so brought to the attention this year, the forefront, because of what we're dealing with. But again, adult meals and staff meals, I know a lot of schools don't charge their adults, or their staff, I should say, their teachers, or they charge them a lesser amount than the required amount, which is on the slide, which breakfast is $1.97, lunch is $4.13, and snacks are $1. If you're not charging at all, or you're charging less than that required amount, funds other than child nutrition funds must cover those meals. It's required. It's regulatory. It's nothing we've made up. It's just regulatory. We do have a form that a lot of the people approving applications this year have been sending out, and it helps you track the amount that non-federal funds need to cover for child nutrition in the amount of those adult meals. And so in the screenshot on the PowerPoint slide, we put in the amount that's required, which is $4.13. And then if you're charging $2, we subtract that. So there's a $2.13 difference. And then if you look at breakfast, the same thing. Breakfast is $1.97. You're charging $1. There's a 97-cent difference there. And so the lower portion of that form, which is the next slide, you enter each month the number of adult meals for lunches on the left side and breakfast on the right side, and it calculates based on that difference you're not charging what the amount is that needs to be covered for child nutrition for those meals. And so that's a form that when we find this in the application in the Schedule B this year, we're sending you all to complete. This was a part of the reason for this is to make everybody aware of that amount, because I think sometimes we just assume that maybe covering the utilities might cover that amount. And I will tell you, in years past during reviews, I have found where a school says, oh, well, we're paying the utilities and child nutrition for our adult meals, and it didn't cover it because the adult meal cost was more. So you'd be shocked at how quickly that can add up. And so that's why that form was developed, to help show that amount, as well as we are having to look at this closer because it was a finding for us on our state audit last year. And so this is something that we're going to have to look at much closer. As far as coding, and Dana may chime in here too, because she did speak with Kathy Black of OCAS last week about this. And so I'll read the slide, and then if we need to address it some more, or maybe it comes up in the chat, Dana may chime in on this part too. If general fund is paying for or supplementing your adult or staff meals, and you code child nutrition to the general fund, which is Fund 11 rather than 22, you do have to have a way to show how these funds are being tracked. And so, Dana, is there anything you want to add to that based on your conversation with Kathy last week?
It is something that you school districts will need to be able to track. And I would highly suggest that if you're collecting revenue in your adult meals and you're coding that to project 000, that you utilize another local fund project number to code your expenditure, so that you will make it easier for you to track and for us to look at when we come out to do our review. We're going to have some more discussions with the consultants about this, and when they come to visit and do TAs, we will be getting more information, and I'm going to try to put something together in writing, and I'll send it out as an attachment in a mass email kind of explaining how you can maybe code to track these differences to help us all make sure we're covering those adult meals.
And this is for anyone that's not directly involved with the program. Your staff are directly involved with the program and can eat for free. We're talking teachers that come in and eat. This does not include duty teachers. They need to pay. That's not direct involvement. Being a duty teacher in the cafeteria is part of their contract. So that doesn't justify a free meal.
And I was just going to add, on the Schedule B, that's been a little confusing. I know on the schools, I have been approving adults are example visitors. So what are you charging your adult visitors? Reason we have two different places is because some school districts charge their visiting adults more than they do their staff. And when we're saying staff on the Schedule B, we're talking about your teachers, your teacher aide, your custodians, whoever else you charge that works for your school district, other than your child nutrition folks that are entitled to that free meal.
That's a good, I agree that we do need to differentiate those two. Okay, so next slide. Again, you still have the ability to do emergency purchasing and procurement because of what's going on with COVID. This is not specific to COVID. This is a reg that's always been available to you, and that 2 CFR 200.320 has always been there. There's always been emergency purchasing that you're able to do. This year, it just seems that you all may need it more often than you have in the past because of what you're dealing with as far as having to go to so many vendors to try to get product because of outages and shortages and things like that. So that is still available to you, that emergency purchasing and procurement. And that hasn't changed from the last few calls we've had. And next slide. The emergency funding we've talked about for several months. The letters went out. If you did not get a letter, that means that your 20 reimbursement was more than your 19 and you weren't eligible. The first round of payments are scheduled for September 30th. And most all the schools that are doing NSLP or SBP, that's when that payment will go out. Some of the childcare might be after that in our second round, but the schools should all, looks like all be paid out on that first round. Reminder that money has to be spent on allowable child nutrition costs. And then after the funds are received, you will get a survey. It'll be after we've paid out completely. So it's not going to be like you're going to get paid and then you'll get a survey. It'll be once everybody's been paid. And we will just it's just going to be a short survey of how you spent or what you're planning on using that money for. And again, allowable CN costs. And
Jennifer, can I just chime in here? Because we've had several calls on this emergency funding. You do not have to claim for, it's not anything you have to send in a claim for. It is not anything you will have to send in receipts for. It is money that is just going to be allowed to be spent anything child nutrition. And like Jennifer said, we'll send that survey out and you will just tell us how you spent it or how you plan to spend it. It's going to be really simple. It's going to be the most simple thing we've done all through COVID, I think.
You'll want to be sure the letter had the coding in there. You want to be sure that you code that with that coding for OCAS though too. It was in the letter. Okay, next, Dana. Just a reminder, I think Dana mentioned it already too, we do have to do school reviews this year, so those will be conducted. So anybody that should have had a review in 2021, and those were postponed based on USDA's directive, will be reviewed in 21-22, which is this current year. We will also be doing procurement reviews this year. So nothing's changed with that. Our link for our last call is there. And I think we're to the last slide, which is questions. So we'll switch on over to the chat and scroll up to where questions started, and we'll get started on those. We haven't had too many. I've kind of kept an eye on it. Okay, so I think the first one is if we use our register, which I believe you mean point of sale system to count kids at meals, do we still need to keep the tally sheet? No, you would just use your point of sale system in the cafeteria. If you are one of those districts that are, we do have some districts that are serving grab and go and virtual meal for virtual learners, you could use the tally sheet for that. And then once you have their name, because you also have to ensure, so hold on that. You can use the tally sheet, but remember, you have to ensure that the meal is going to an eligible child. So sometimes with those waivers, we have to take names too and check off a roster. Okay, hold on, my chat jumped again. There we go. Clarification on audits. You must, oh, SSO reviews. Yes, they are, all sites, Shauna, are due within that 4-week time frame. Yes. What about kitchen staff that receive free meals? I think we addressed that earlier. They're in direct operation of the CNP program, so they can eat free, and you're fine with that. They are allowed to eat free. Staff does not include kitchen, cook, manager, and prep. Your staff would include. They are directly involved in the operation of the child nutrition program, school lunch, school breakfast program, so they would count. We post these slides in other documents under, is it COVID, Dana? I can never remember the heading we put these under.
COVID-19, I can't remember exactly what it is, but I try to separate out the trainings and the PowerPoints in one, and then the memos and waivers and others in another section, so that makes them easier to find.
Right. I don't know why every time someone types in the chat, my chat jumps.
Did you see the direct certification question?
Not yet. Carrie Kinsey's, can you just state food costs? Are you referring to maybe for the emergency funding? I'm not sure, Carrie, I'm not sure I'm following your full question. On emergency money, if you are to code it to at risk and no longer due at risk, yes, can it still be spent on NSLP? Yes, it can. Because that's why you got the money, is because you were operating at risk for the reference months of the guidance. So yes, you can do that. Can emergency operational cost funding be used on purchasing food? You can. It's an allowable cost. And Lisa, I still am looking into what you called me about Friday. So more to come on that, Lisa. CEP schools using POS. Well, my understanding is ideally we would like that to happen if you're a CEP school and you have a POS system. I know some CEP schools have gotten rid of their POS system. But again, I think when I joined the call, Dana was talking about all that. And it's again to ensure that one meal is given to a child. Sometimes that's tied to allergies and things like that. So that's part of the whole reason for using your POS. What will happen next year if a district still wants virtual days and waivers are no longer? I can't answer that right now because it hasn't been addressed. I don't know what they're going to do for next school year. I don't even know at what point we might even potentially hear about that. Keep in mind that the guidance came out in April of 21 for this school year. So I don't know that we'll hear anything on that for multiple months down the road. So I can't answer that. I'm not sure if they'll keep them in place or not. Jumped again. The 4-week review is only done once. Yes, that is correct for SSO, but please remember you have to do, if you're multi-sided, you have to do that NSLP and SBP on-site monitoring one as well. If a district carry, yes, you can just state food cost. Yes. Where can we find the form for adult meal tracking? It is actually in other documents, but all the area consultants have it, and we have it as well, so you can get it from virtually anybody. Is anyone else having trouble with direct cert? Oh, we have kids that graduated still showing up, and kids on the 30-day not on current list. Okay, Dana, have you jotted that down? Because we probably need to ask Eric about that.
Okay, I will. When we capture this chat, I'll get that. I have not. Someone else was having some issues with their. But I looked up that school and I didn't see what they were seeing about the children dropping off on 9:30. So if you're pulling that full report in the wave, that's the report you need to be looking at, not the first 30-day report. Pull that full report.
Right. A couple other things that we don't have a slide for, but just that I've written down based on conversations we have on our staff calls. Keep in mind that you've got to follow the meal patterns. Again, we're doing waivers on a case-by-case basis that are targeted and justified, just like the waiver state and USDA keeps telling us. If you're doing straight serve, serving meals in the classroom, or sending meals home, you can't do offer versus serve. So that means you've got to be serving 3/4 cup vegetable and a 1/2 cup fruit for K through 8. And again, high school, straight serve, or sending meals home, you've got to do that 1 cup fruit and a 1 cup vegetable. So keep that in mind. Meal patterns have to be followed. There's not a blanket waiver or anything for meal patterns. So just want to keep that in mind. And there's a couple of you that called today that I'll be calling back this afternoon. So I don't know if Crescent's on the call, Lynn from Haskell, or Athena from Anderson. I'll be in touch with you. I'm not done with the call. I just wanted you to know I'm not ignoring you. I will get you called back after this call. As far as, so we'll check on direct cert, and then somebody asked, do we send in on-site reviews or keep them on file? You keep them on file for review purposes. Teresa, that's the one she's looking at and it's not right. Okay, we will check into that. Will we be able to print the claims in SSO at some point and not just a print screen? Edgar, could you maybe update in the chat on that if you're on the call? Or I guess if you're able to talk, you could speak, Edgar. But I think maybe we have everybody muted. That's the way the Zoom's set up. So Edgar,
yes,
go ahead, Dana.
I was going to say Edgar's probably muted. I'd have to make him a co-host.
Okay, Edgar, could you maybe address that in the call if you're on, please?
I think he's typing in the chat right now.
Perfect, thank you. We'll get down to that in just a second. It keeps jumping, I'm so sorry. Fairview, okay, Teresa, the Fairview, okay. DC issue, okay. Okay, PEBT. A parent asking for PEBT, do we have an update on these, and are they only for days that we were in distance learning and not the whole year? Yeah, it was for your distance learning, virtual learners. If you were having school on site and in person and kids were there learning, they wouldn't qualify. So it's for free and reduced kids that were virtual learning that had, if you did close for 2 weeks, let's say, if there was some of that last year, which I'm sure there was, then those free and reduced kids that maybe were in person, but because they were then became virtual learner for a 2-week period, they were eligible. But it's based on free and reduced. Obviously, if you're a CEP or Provision 1 or 2 school, that applies as well. And let's see, there was one other thing that just escaped me. DHS, my understanding, should be start issuing some benefits by the end of the week, was the last thing I heard on Friday. And there'll be information between both entities, being state agencies, released probably midweek regarding that, kind of like it's going to be like a press release type informational press release is what it's going to be. You tried filing special milk and it said you weren't eligible. Okay, so we need to look into that. And this is Fairview again, I believe. Okay, Edgar typed in the chat that the SSO does have a print claim. So that's been added. And when will we be able to file claims? Once your application is approved. We have to have an approved application on file to pay a claim. See SSO button above. Okay, so let me write that down. Special milk Fairview. We need to look into that too, Teresa. Oh, Teresa, Edgar put in the chat if you would please give him a call regarding special milk. And his number is 405-522-5043. Oh, he put it in the chat. Sometimes I went ahead and said it because I'm not sure if everybody can see the chat. Who can parents call if they have a question about PEBT? Yeah, if it's regarding, and that release is going to talk about who to call for what. If it's in regard to a card or the part they're handling, then they would call DHS. Yes, that is the case. Okay. And someone put in the chat the DHS number, which is 405-522-5050. Krista, is the SSO print claim by site and not district? You claim by site, but as far as how it prints it,
I think it's by site.
Okay, there you go.
Because nothing, our SSO doesn't roll up into one.
Right. Edgar
summary.
Says SSO prints by site. Okay, someone just put in the chat, I had a parent call today wanting a letter stating her student is reduced. She needed this so she could receive free internet. Is there a special letter we need to use for this? No, it would just be a letter from the district. We don't have a letter prototype or form letter for that. So prints by site, yes, by site. Okay, anybody else? Again, I still am anticipating some guidance coming out from USDA. It has to go through their Office of General Counsel, so it gets hung up in legal a lot of times. They always tell us it's coming, but then it goes to legal and it kind of hits a standstill. We got a little bit of guidance, but it was just state agency guidance last week regarding reporting and stuff that's coming up and making sure that our federal reports are tracked appropriately for the waivers, for meal counts and such that we have to submit to them. So it did not pertain anything to that it wouldn't even pertain to anything you all do. It's just how we report. So does anybody else have any questions? Is there still a lot of like 2-week closures? I don't want to say closures, but 2-week like virtual learning going on out there? We were hearing about it quite a bit there for, a 2 or 3 week span right after school started, and how, schools were going to close for, and I don't want to say close, but close meaning not having in person for like 2 weeks. So we've got we've got some no's and we've got a few, oh, somebody's gone virtual this week. Okay. So we're closed for 3 days, but came back. Okay. All right. My assumption, and I don't know if I missed when I got on the call, I believe shortages and outages are still an issue. That hasn't changed. Can anybody put in regarding if they're hearing how long this might go? Is it going to go, till the first of the year? Is it going to go all year? I'm asking you a lot of questions. You guys normally ask me questions. So in person at Putnam City, sent individual grades home for quarantining. Okay, rather than, okay. So far in Olive, not at Mosley. We have about 49 out of the enrollment of 1650. Okay. Okay, so Trina, I have a student wanting a letter also. Her parent hasn't sent in an application, but she thought they could. So you must be a CEP school, but the parent's needing a letter, maybe? Oh, and it just jumped. Trina. Kellogg, okay, so Krista, Kellogg's is saying months and months. Okay. Where did that go? So Krista, is that for cereal or just mainly cereal type food? Months and months, that's interesting. They don't really know when product might be. Okay. I'm hearing the manufacturers are not wanting to produce the whole grain items. I've gotten wind of that myself. That's been brought up before. D. Reynolds, that has crossed my mind, and it's been brought up on calls that possibly they're just not producing them because they don't want to. That has been brought up. So we have, shortage may last most of the year. Okay. Been told it could get worse as the year goes on. Right now, you can't get styrofoam trays or other styrofoam products. Okay. Knew that was a possibility, but I didn't know that that was for sure. Okay. So, and I had heard that you can't get white styrofoam trays, but you can get black styrofoam trays and they cost more. I've been told that as well. Hard whole grains, hard to get. Yep. Still lots of shortages with no end in sight. Utensils, forks, hard to get, and 6-ounce squats. Okay, interesting. A couple of those things I hadn't heard. It keeps jumping. I'm sorry.
My screen jumped too. It just jumped plumb out of the screen sharing and everything. I was just going to add on the whole grains, just remember, yes, like for an example, if you can't get the whole grain biscuit you like, you're just not getting it, or maybe not any whole grain biscuits. Maybe you could serve a white biscuit and offer whole grain toast and serve your white biscuit as an extra. Now, remember, you would have to keep in consideration that, the white biscuit would still have to be calculated in your nutrients, such as your calories, but we have the sodium waiver, so you're not going to have to worry about sodium. You might look at, some of that if you are struggling to get some of those whole grain products in, that you are allowed to serve an extra.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So let's see. Jim says, we got most of our processed commodities last week on our truck. That's good. But we're still out lots of stuff like spoons and trays. Okay. Several others have had said trays. Maybe a little better on product. Okay. Mostly shortages on non-edible items. Okay. More shortages showing up daily. Trays. Okay. Krista, I got the impression mostly cereal, and I understand all school year. Okay. Issue product's going to be an issue for a long time. Not enough workers to run the lines, so the manufacturers are getting cut. Yep, we have heard that all along. Styrofoam products are getting hard to get, and gloves are over $100 a case. Wow. And okay, that's the first I've heard. Gloves, whole grain. Okay. Shortages are horrible, and the whole grain products are in very short supply if we can get them. Okay, 2 vendors have sent back bids on that. Okay. Oh, bottled water, okay, is now a shortage due to Hurricane Ida. Yeah, Louisiana's in our region, and there are lots of issues there. Oh, now black trays are even hard to get. No trays at all through US Foods. Wowzer. Yeah, the price is up on styrofoam. So Kay at Cashin couldn't get CN labeled nuggets today. And foam cups. Interesting. No chicken drumsticks. Land O'Lakes shortages for like cheese that you use on pizza. Yeah, not surprised. PB&J sandwiches. I had heard that they were not going to be able to fulfill a lot of orders this year. And now, okay, black trays paying twice as much for certain items. I've been contacted by news channels and the paper. Our distributors telling us that many things. Whoops, it jumped. Oh, gosh. Okay, I don't even know where that. There we go. Our distributors telling us that many things are being shorted, from whole grain to chips to fries. Child nutrition is being put back on the. I've heard that too. Child nutrition is being put on the back burner. And what I'm hearing on that on calls is, which is not fair. I agree. I'll say it first, and not necessarily right, but when, why would a vendor out a restaurant that can use any egg roll or any type of product that they're not tied to a CN labeled type product, so they're really trying to cater, that's probably not the best word, but maybe cater more to a restaurant per se than a child nutrition where the guidelines are stricter. So that's been talked about. And these are on USDA calls, so they're aware of stuff like this. Can't get anything plastic or paper. Oh my goodness. Food costs through the roof. I agree. Flowers Bakery was down last week because, oops, it jumped. Flowers Bakery was down last week because of labor issues. Wow. There are only 2 manufacturers for foam trays. I've heard that as well. Commodities have Cheerios still. Not following that, Jim. Look on Amazon for gloves. Somebody's saying they've had luck on Amazon for gloves. Flowers did not bid my school because he would not guarantee whole grain. Okay. I'm still confused about marking students at breakfast lunch. I've been using the SSO daily meal count form. If I do not charge for introduce, I'm still confused about marking students at breakfast and lunch. I've been using the SSO daily meal count form, so I no longer mark that way. If not, do I charge for Yes. If your point of sale system, you need to change your free and reduced amount, or your amounts in your POS, set them to 0 and use your POS system is what we are asking. Yes. US Foods won't deliver if we don't order 20 cases per site. Oh my. Tyson is hard to get commodity pounds used. There is much discussion. Somebody said, will USDA step in and help us out? There is still a lot of discussion at the national level regarding all of this. So don't think that it's just the wheels are slow. I know that SNA and some other advocacy groups have met with Secretary of Agriculture Vilsack more than once, and the topics are a lot like what you guys are putting in here. And when I hear stuff, I do pass it along to my regional office, which in turn does get sent to the national office. They're asking this type of stuff that you're putting in here be sent to them so that they can pass it along to Washington, D.C. So yeah, that's part of why I'm asking, just kind of a follow-up. We had a call last Thursday with our region, but we'll have another one next Thursday. And they're, every time we talk, they're asking, and I can send an email between now and then. So anyway, okay, sorry, my chat keeps jumping. So this is not falling on deaf ears, but just know that there's processes that have to take place. They can't just issue a change and it be okay. It's a convoluted program, as you all know, that have been in it for so long, and then add to what we're dealing with. They do still have processes that have to take place. Okay, sorry, there were Cheerios on the unallocated list for commodities to order. I have some coming tomorrow. Okay, Cheerios. I didn't realize they had name brand Cheerios. Good to know with commodities. That is the problem with the trays. Restaurants are a priority. That's what, yeah. All this to say, it would be great to offer white biscuits as an extra and whole grain toast, but we have trouble getting them. Oh gosh, okay. It increases food costs and labor. It seems as an unwinnable situation for child nutrition. We pride ourselves, and my chat keeps jumping, in running a fiscally sound program. We are bleeding. Yeah, we are hearing that, and they are hearing that at the national level too. We serve around 200 or less for lunch. I was under, the impression that since we're so small, I can continue this. So we really want if you're in person, going through the line in the cafeteria to use your point of sale system. At least it's being talked about. We can't serve correctly if we can't get it. And that's being talked about as well. It would be nice if we felt like USDA understands what we're dealing with. They may be hearing us, but it doesn't feel like it. I agree with you, Krista. I agree wholeheartedly. They 100% hear what you're saying. I have always said that they're not necessarily in the trenches like you all, nor have they ever been in the trenches like you all. But it's not, I'm telling them, all the other states, 7 states in our region are telling them, and then all the other states and all the other regions are also telling them. So you're definitely not, it's not, like I said, it's not falling on deaf ears. It's just the processes and procedures that they have to follow. I've learned a lot about some of that since COVID, and what all they have to go through to get some of these flexibilities even in place. Okay, let's see. Just keeps jumping. Every time somebody puts something in the chat, it jumps. Okay, we only have 2 companies that will even bid for our school. They have told us that they will not honor prices on the bids. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, that we've heard that all along as well. Watch the dates on your commodity Cheerios. Okay. Tammy Bells, watch the date. Is telling you all if you got your commodity Cheerios. Apparently they might be short dated. Yes, even if you're CEP, we want you to use the point of sale. Yes. Okay, I think I'm at the end again. Oh, the whole grain items was a bad idea from the beginning. Yeah, that's been a battle from the beginning. You're right, it has. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out over the next year or so. I agree. Jim says, Tammy, thanks for the heads up on the Cheerios. Okay, so that being said, we did kind of go off the beaten path to discuss some of that stuff, but I will continue to pass this along and hopes that something does change down the road a little bit. It won't be immediate, I know that, I can tell you that, but fingers crossed that something does change with that. I have nothing to base that on, but they are listening, I can tell you that. So with that said, we'll go ahead and end the call. We're going to go ahead and shoot for a 2-week call in hopes that maybe we have a little bit more guidance. So let's shoot for the 27th of September at 1:30. And we will go from there regarding if there's absolutely nothing, we may not have it, but I do like to just kind of keep y'all in the loop and to know learn from you of what's going on out there too. So I'll probably lean towards having it, but I appreciate everything you all continue to do. what are we, 18, 19 months into this, and you guys are doing a great job. Keep it up. I want to say this might be so far the hardest, but I could be wrong. I think you guys are dealing with a lot, even more now because of the shortages is what I probably should say. And if you have questions, we're here. Reach out to us. Your consultants are out there for you. And we will be in touch. And if something was to come out that you needed to know prior to the 2-week time frame, as you know, we will do something and get a call going. But otherwise, we'll shoot for 2 more weeks. And you guys take care. And thanks for everything you continue to do. We will talk to you guys later. Bye.